What's up, everybody? So this is the beginning of our camper build. We're excited to get started. I know it seems like it's taken forever to get to this point. We've been accumulating a lot of supplies and parts. I have a stack of stuff over here behind us. And of course we have a bunch of lumber here. So what we're doing right now is we're trying to figure out, we're going to build our floor today. We're going to build the framing and the plywood, assemble all that, and our insulation for the floor. So it's going to be basically 1/2-inch plywood on the bottom, a 2x2 for framing to create some spacing between the plywood, and then a 3/4-inch piece of plywood on top. And then we're going to be putting 1-inch foam board insulation in between the two. The reason we went with 1 inch is because 1.5 inch was a little bit too thick for these 2x2s, which are not quite 1.5 inches. They're a little bit smaller than that. So we would have not been making contact with our 2x2s if we would have went with the 1.5 inch, or at least it seemed it was going to be a problem. Plus the 1 inch is a little bit cheaper and the R value doesn't drop that much. And we're building a 5 foot by a little bit over 10 foot long square drop. We don't need a really high R value with that because it's going to be so small. It'll be easy to heat and cool. We will have heat, electric heat, and also electric AC. So what we're doing right at this moment is we are marking out all of our dimensions and trying to figure out in our head. We don't have a blueprint for this. We're actually doing all this out in our head and making notes as we go along. I have a notebook. I'm writing stuff down. So our actual floor length is going to be 123 inches long. So it's a little bit longer than 10 foot. It's about 3 inches longer. And then we're going to be exactly 5 foot going across. We have to go that size with the floor because our framing is going to sit right on top of that, and then our plywood is going to overlap, and we're going to have 1/4-inch plywood on the exterior that's going to be coated in epoxy, and then a bed liner material is going to be the final coating on the outside. We've been pondering this, thinking about this for many months, and watching a lot of other videos, and we're trying to come up with something that's going to be easy to build, inexpensive to build. We're trying to keep our costs under $5,000. I think we can do that. I haven't tallied what we spent so far, but most of the expensive stuff is already bought. We have all of our electrical, our lighting. We don't have our solar yet. We have a good bit of all the accessories, that we're putting in, like the microwave, the AC, the TV. We're going to have a television and all the electrical components. We're not putting any plumbing in it at all. It's going to be completely dry. We do have a exterior camping sink that we'll carry with us when we camp, so we didn't feel like we needed any plumbing. We're going to keep it just electric, and that's it. No plumbing involved. So let me show you exactly what we're doing at this point. We're going to get everything marked, and we're going to start cutting up all our lumber for our floor. Correction on our plywood. We're actually using 1/2 inch. It's not exactly half. It's a little bit, it's nominal sizes, and it's a little bit smaller than half. I can't remember the exact dimension, but it's slightly under 1/2 inch. So we're marking out our 2x2s. And we picked the best ones we could find. They've sat in our garage for a few months, and they aren't perfectly straight anymore, but they're close enough. So we're marking these here, 57 inches. I have these two, they're going to stay full length. And I've already marked, I'm doing 16 inches on center for my spacing. And I do got two that are 27.25. So it turns out these are not exactly 8 feet. They're a 1/4 inch short. So I'm having to cut my 2 extension pieces to make this 10 foot 3 inches. I'm having to cut them a 1/4 inch long. So that's why I'm cutting the 27.25. But anyways, we're going to cut all these up, and we're going to start assembling our frame. We're going to be using screws. I'll show you what we're using. We're going to be putting everything together with decking screws. And that's what we'll use for the plywood when we attach it. We have some of these decking screws as well. We have some 2-inch and some 3-inch. So we'll be using those as well. We'll probably use the 3s to, we'll pre-drill and use the 3s to assemble everything together as far as the framing part of it. Now that we have all our framing cut up, we're going to pre-drill all of our screw holes. And basically what we're doing with this is we're making 2 frames. One's going to be a smaller one and one's going to be a bigger one, and they're all going to be screwed to the 2 pieces of plywood. I thought about trying to piece everything together, and it just didn't seem like it would work that well, so this is the way I decided to do it, because we're using 2x2s. So I'm going to pre-drill each location, and I've already pre-marked them. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be putting a single screw through into the end of these, and we're going to line them up with our holes that we pre-drilled. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill some more into here because this is a big screw we're using, just so that we have a little bit of pre-drill into the second board. And I'm also going to put a little bit of glue on the ends of them. We're using Tight Bond 2. This is the glue that we're going to be using for the entire build here. And that's exactly what we'll be using for all the joints that we glue together. I'm going to pre-drill this first one, get it lined up. My drill bit's not long enough to go as long as these screws are. It's just a hair too short, but let me see if I can pull it out just a little bit. It's close. That's going to be about a 1/2 inch. I'd rather not use the screw that long, but I'm going to have to shop and go get some that are not quite as long. But I don't want a screw that's too short. I need some 2.5 inch. All right, so let's put a little bit of glue on the end. Probably should have done that before we did the drilling. Because our hole's not going to line up. So next one we'll do before we go. That's all the way in. The only issue with using glue, of course, is you're going to have glue all over the place, like we're going to have here. All right, I got it stood up, and like I said, I could have done this a lot smarter, but it is what it is. I'm already here. I don't want to take it apart. So we're just going to run a bead of glue and separate them, run a bead of glue all the way down. I'm not going to put too much in here. I don't want it squirting everywhere. Before I screw it from the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it. It's got a little bit of a twist in it. I'm going to force the twist out of it, if you know what I mean. Let's get some glue on that. Let's get it lining up. Go ahead and drill both of them. Try to get them back where they were. It's got a little bit of a twist in it. We'll try to twist it out. perfect. But one thing I want to do before I forget is I need to put some screws sideways here. I'm going to put like 3. I'm going to do the same thing. This might be a little bit of overkill, but those are not even barely coming through, so that's good. One more. It is day 2. We finished our frame for our floor. We did have to go back and make a little bit of a change. We have some leftover plywood, 1/2 inch, and we realized after we built our frame that we had enough pieces that we could save about 3 to 4 sheets of plywood by using these scraps. And we were only off 1/4 inch, so we actually shortened our frame down to 122 3/4. We took off 1/4 inch off the end of our frame so that we can use 4 of these scraps here for the very ends on the side and then also on the bottom. And that's going to save us at least 3 sheets of plywood, maybe possibly even 4. So we were thinking about that and like, oh my gosh, we wanted to be able to use these because these are 22 or something like that. They are actually, I'll measure it. They're 26 3/4. So we're going to have 2 full 4-foot sections of plywood and then the scraps that are left over for the very last section of the floor on the top and bottom. Now we're about to cut our 3/4 inch plywood here. We have it set up. We already got our line marked. I was going to set up a guide and try to get a nice straight cut, but I'm not really worried about that so much on the floor because you're not going to see any of the floor at all. All of it's going to be covered with the walls because my outside sheet of plywood is going to overlap and go all the way down to the bottom. Now, all of the exterior walls and the top of the trailer, I will take the time to set up a rail to cut against so I can have a really nice straight cut. This is not as critical, so I'm not going to waste the time doing that. I will try to do my best in getting a nice straight cut, but I didn't even bother snapping a chalk line. I just used the edge of factory cut of plywood. But we're cutting these down to 5 foot. We're going to have 2 5-foot sections. This is our second sheet here below, but this is our first one. We're going to have a 3-foot section left over. We're going to use those last leftovers to complete the very end. And this will be the top of our floor. This will be the underlayment basically for our camper. And this is where we'll lay our tile, our vinyl, I should say. We'll glue our vinyl down to this. I am going to install the vinyl. Once the floor is done, I'm going to install the vinyl on top of this before I build my walls. And I'm going to leave a gap just big enough for the 2x2s so I can glue them straight down to the top of the floor and screw them down. But I will be doing that first. I don't want to wait until the camper's done and then go back in and do it because it'll be a lot harder. I think it'll be much easier to do it this way. I think I can do a lot better job doing it this way. And I am going to be gluing it down. So, well, let's get to cutting. lot easier to deal with these smaller pieces. A lot easier. There's no way I could have done this. So I put all my stuff in storage. I rented a storage unit, put my boat, all kinds of stuff, my electric bike, wheelbarrow, some yard tools, a lot of stuff. I need to take my mower down there and put it in there so I have a little more space, and I plan to do that, but so I can have the entire garage space for this. Perfect. So this piece here is actually going to sit just like that on the end. Now these boards are not, they were cut for something else. So they're not a full 8 foot. They're only about 6. So I'm not having to cut off as much here. Okay. All right, so 5 foot. We'll snap our chalk line here. All right. Okay, so one thing we got to do before we put the plywood on is we got to put our little brace in where our 2 smaller pieces are going to meet of that 3/4 inch. So I got to cut a couple of short pieces here, 8.5 and then 14 inches long. That's our 8.5. Now, what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to glue and screw them together ahead of time. Everything is put together. Basically what we're going to be doing here, we've already marked off where we're putting our blocks, but we're going to have one here. And I've pre-drilled these. I'm going to toe screw these in. And then this one, I'm going to screw from the outside. So that one will get screwed from this end, 2 screws and 2 screws in this way. And then I'll toe screw this one in on the end. I'm going to push this back a little bit so we have some support here. There's actually a screw head right there too. So we'll do that one second after we do this one. I've already pre-drilled the holes here, so I'm going to just go ahead and drill through again. I don't want to split any of this wood. Just one step that I wasn't thinking about earlier. I knew I was going to have to do this. I knew I was going to be doing this, but I wasn't thinking about it when I was framing this. Okay. The only reason we're doing this is because of us piecing together that small piece of 3/4. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. I'm going to use some shorter screws when I do the toe screws on this one. Alright, we're going to put a little bit of, I'm not going to pre-drill these, it's just a lot harder to do that. I am going to glue this though. Just a bead down the middle. It really turns out you don't need near as much glue as you think you need. You think you need a lot, and you really don't. Okay. Do that one. Let's do this one. Okay, so here's the plan. We are going to go ahead and start laying our plywood down. We're going to do the 1/2 inch side first because that's our exterior side. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to glue down all of our foam board insulation. I didn't film it, but by myself, I picked this up and flipped it over and put it on my trailer. I figured it'd be easier from here on out to work off of the trailer. It'd be easier on my back anyways. And I wanted to see how it's going to fit. And I'm pretty happy with it. It looks pretty square. Some of my plywood cuts weren't the best, but I'm going to take my router and run along the outside and trim off. My frame is pretty square and straight. It's just the plywood was a little bit off. So I can fix that. The router will, I'll take an edge bit and I'll go around all the way around, and I'll cut the top and the bottom part so that everything is flush with the 2x2. I tried to cut this with a box cutter, and I don't have a lot of experience cutting foam board insulation, but I can tell you that didn't work very well. You can see. One problem is the blade is not long enough. But I did change over to this knife that I found in my toolbox. I'm not sure what it's for. I had to sharpen it a little bit because it was kind of dull. A lot longer and thinner, and it seems to work pretty well. So I'm scrapping the idea of using the box cutter, and I'm just going to use this. You can see I made a big mess with the, but this just cuts right through it. Made a huge mess with the box cutter. It just kind of like, I don't know, it just shredded it basically. So now I got to finish my cut. This seems to work a lot better, even though it's not as sharp. So I'm going to use this moving forward. I'll just have to keep sharpening it if it gets dull. And there you go. So that worked pretty good compared to using the box cutter for sure. So 13 3/4. And of course, not all of this is going to be 13 3/4. They're going to vary a little bit because the way I did the framing. Just going to start here in the middle, work my way out. Oh yeah, much easier. Definitely the knife to use, and not a razor blade. Definitely much easier. Cuts like butter. Like I said, I did sharpen it, so perfect. And I will lie, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't figure this out on my own. I did a quick YouTube search for best way to cut foam board insulation. And I saw some folks using like a rotary saw and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And there's this one guy using a knife like this. Perfect. And actually, once you get it cut deep enough, you can like break it off like I did. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Let's make sure these fit. This is the first one. The only bad thing about breaking it off, you're going to have a little bit of a lip there. And yeah, that don't work so well. Next time I won't do that. I'm going to have to trim this one down actually. It didn't cut straight. break off straight. Still a little bit big on this end. Yeah. There we go. What we're using here is just liquid nails, construction adhesive. We did research to make sure we were getting the right stuff. I'm not going to put a lot in here. It doesn't take a lot to hold it down. Finally starting to look like something. Doesn't really look like a camper yet, but it looks like something. And in my opinion, this is the most important part of the camper because it's the start of it, the bottom, the base of it, and everything coming off of it's going to be based off of it. The walls, everything else is going to be supported by it. And it's an important part. So we are going to be putting on our top layer of plywood, our 3/4 inch. We'll glue it, screw it, just like we did the bottom side. And then if we have some time, we'll use our router and run all the way around both sides, or the top and bottom, and clean up the edge of the plywood and get it all straight with the framing. One thing I want to do now at this point, we got all of our screws in, we got everything glued down. This is completely done. It's closed in. We're not doing anything else to this except for we're going to route the outside edges on the top and bottom, and then we're going to lay our laminate flooring down. But before I do that, I countersunk all these screws. These I'm not worried about. These on the outside, my wall is going to sit on top of those. I'm cutting my flooring where it's going to be just inside of this, so I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about are these that have been countersunk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill those with wood putty. This goes pretty quick. It's moving along. I don't really have any that are sticking up, so I'm not going to have to pull them out and redo them. Looking good. We're going to stop here at this point. Tomorrow we'll come back. We're going to sand this. We're going to route the edges of the plywood. And then we're going to lay down our flooring, our vinyl flooring. Getting kind of dry there. We're about to start sanding, and yes, I got a dust mask. I don't want to get a bunch of sandy debris up in my nose, so I am going to wear one just to try to keep the particles from getting irritating my sinuses, because I have a lot of sinus issues anyways. But we're going to start sanding this and sand all of our spots that we wood puttied yesterday. I'm using, I believe this is 180 I'm using, yeah, 180. So it's not super coarse, but it's not super fine. It feels pretty good. There's no rough edges even here along the seams. It's very smooth, and that's what you want. It's working wonderfully. I mean, it's got me a nice, really straight edge. Can't ask for more than that. exactly what we wanted. So now all of our plywood is flush with our 2x2s. Perfect. Now the only issue we have is we got to come back, and I may run my sander around this also, just to kind of get off any spurs. There is some splinters and stuff sticking out, so I will hit it with the sander just to clean it up, but I'm pretty happy with that. It's made a huge mess in my garage though. So let's get it lined up on two of the edges. Hopefully it's square and straight and I don't have to do too much cutting. I got this at Home Depot. It's a nice pattern. I wanted something that kind of looked like wood. It's like about right there. That's where I need to be. I'm going to use this cutter because it's got a really sharp blade. And it's long too. All right, perfect. Because I'm dealing with such a small area, I'm just going to do half of it and then flip it over and do the other half rather than try to roll it up. I don't think it's worth it. If I have any excess on the outside, I'll just scrape it up. There was some air bubbles, but they're all pretty much out now. I really want to take a paint roller to it. Probably as good as anything. Can't understand how we got glue there. Well, we got our floor done and everything's glued down. We're going to let it cure. We're not going to work on it anymore this week. We're going to take a little bit of a break because today's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. And it looks good. I'm real happy with it. So far, so good. This is the end of episode 2 of our camper build, and we'll be back for episode 3 in a few weeks. We'll be starting the framing of our walls, so make sure you subscribe to our channel so you get notifications, and turn on the alerts so you get notifications when that posts. We appreciate you watching, and if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button for us. We really do appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel for more camper building content. You're going to be with us the whole way, all the way to the end, and then once we're done building it, we're going to take it around, traveling all over the place, and take it along with us for our adventures. So please like and subscribe. We do appreciate it. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in the next episode.